Hello everyone, my name is Phoebe Reed, and a lot of interesting events happened in Chapter 15 of Tortilla Flat. This chapter starts with a description of Monterey and Tortilla Flat. Every day is the same in these places, and both areas go about their, quote, changeless routines. Quote, do you think this is foreshadowing that Danny and his group will never change while they live here? Or do you think they are going to be the only people that change and affect everything else? That morning, Danny starts to, quote, feel the beating of time, and he begins to look back at his old days when he felt like he had freedom. His friends try and help him feel better, but Danny doesn't want to be comforted, he wants to be free. Do you think Danny is aware that he does not feel free because he is a slave to his passions? What do you think will happen to Danny so that he realizes he is a slave to his passions? After this realization that he desires freedom, Danny runs away and does a lot of bad things that we will discuss later. His friends believe that he is probably just with a girl, but after they don't see him for a week, they decide to go looking for Danny. And they also decided that he went crazy. They start looking for him in the woods, and when they get back to the house, Danny has robbed them and stolen a lot of the possessions in the house. Even though they're mainly Danny's possessions, his friends are still mad at him because now they are missing things that they need in the house. They decide to look for Danny at Torelli's, and Torelli has quite the story for them. He tells them that Danny gave Torelli 3 blankets and pots that he took from the house and gave them to Torelli in exchange for a gallon of wine. After Danny started insulting Torelli and his wife, then stole their hammock. It is clear that Danny is struggling with the passions anger and frustration in this chapter the most. I think it would be good for all of these characters to convert to Christianity, to start being able to control their passions and live better lives. Christianity focuses on loving God, loving other people, and living out the 10 Commandments. Another emphasis in Christianity is having a change in heart, which leads to a change in actions. This is the only religion where following a rule book doesn't get you to salvation. Every person will fall short, but because of the eternal salvation that Jesus offers us by believing in Him, we should live out the rules in which He calls us to live. People can follow the halakha, but if they only live out those rules and never have a change in heart, then they will never follow those rules forever. I believe that Danny and his friends would be happier if they converted to Christianity and had a church and had a change of heart. They would also live much better lives. After Danny insults Torelli and his wife, he runs away, and Torelli chases after him. After not being able to catch Danny, he goes back to his house and finds Danny raping his wife. I think this is an absolutely horrific event, and that Danny also struggled with lust in this chapter. He needs to learn how to control his passions in order to not act out and hurt other people. After hearing this, Danny's friends try to explain to Torelli that Danny is not mentally well, and Pilon says that they will, quote, tear his stomach out if Torelli is not nice to Danny. Do you think his friends were looking out for Danny because they cared or because they wanted something from him? After everything that has happened, Danny's friends decide that God's judgment has fallen upon them and they should go confess their sins. However, they do not go and confess their own sins, but the sins of Danny. This is ironic because they themselves struggle with a lot of sins of their own that they could have confessed, but they chose to target Danny. This is a good moment to reflect on our own lives and ask ourselves, do you ever point fingers at someone else for doing something wrong when you should look in the mirror and see what you need to fix first? Another ironic twist in this chapter was when Danny stole Pilon's shoes, and Pilon says it is a crime against friendship to take them, and that is the worst type of crime. This is ironic because Pilon and all of Danny's friends have been using him for his house. Torelli senses all of the passions, greed, lust, anger, selfishness, etc., that Danny and his friends are dealing with, and decides that he wants them out of Tortilla Flat. Torelli gets Danny drunk and convinces him to sell the house for $25. He is delighted when he tells all of Danny's friends that they need to leave because he owns the house now, but they burn the bill of sale, so Torelli has no proof he ever bought the house. At the end of the story, Danny comes back, brings food, and everyone is happy again. As we close, I have a few questions for the class. Do you think Torelli will act and get revenge for what Danny and his friends did to him? Or will he not have the courage to act? Also, how do you react to your passions? Do you act out like Danny, or do you have a way to control them? If you can't control them, how do you do it? Thank you for watching.